Welcome to the Inside Track, a groundbreaking webinar series hosted by Carine Schneider, founding partner of Compass Equity Strategic Advisors. Join us as we delve into the journeys of exceptional founders and CEOs who are shaping the future of their industries. From sharing their professional stories to uncovering invaluable lessons learned, each episode promises to inspire and empower. We are so happy you've joined the conversation. Today as special guest we have David Chun, CEO of Equilar. And now over to you, Carine.
And welcome everybody, and welcome to David, who's joining us today. Really thrilled we could get David because we are only weeks away from the well-known Equilar Summit, which is happening in Boston in the first week of June. And so I'm excited to have David here. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics today, so we're going to get started. But David is just, I've known David a long time. We were talking the other day about how long ago we met each other, and it's got to be right around the turn of the century or something around then. But David is the CEO of Equilar, and David's going to tell you a little bit more about it. But David is one of these people who who inspires me. He was the NACD, which is the National Association of Corporate Directors, gave him the very important title of one of the 100 most influential players in corporate governance, which I think is a real coup. And he's on a number of boards, including the Commonwealth Club here in San Francisco, the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, which has been instrumental in really having an impact on where Silicon Valley is going, and so many other things. So David, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started, and then we'll jump into things.
Yeah, thanks, Carine. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, and many thanks to you over the years for our breakfasts together to brainstorm on ideas and feedback on what ways we should enter certain launch new products and whatnot. So you've been incredibly invaluable, so thank you for that. So my journey real quickly, I grew up in New Jersey, right outside New York City. Did my undergrad at the University of Virginia, worked in consulting at Bain in Boston for a short stint, and then at a software company, got my MBA, and then spent 6 years on Wall Street. I started off in New York with Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jenrette in summer associate in 93, full-time in 94. And in 97, I was asked to move out here to Northern California to help get the Silicon Valley office, the Sand Hill Road office, and then La Park off the ground. No plans to ever go west in New Jersey, but my wife and I had just gotten married. We were young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We worked out a one-year deal. If it didn't work out, we could come back. And we moved out April 8th, 1997. About a month later, we were looking for homes. And, it's hard to not like Northern California. Honestly, they are making things a bit difficult, the business climate out here. But that being said, it's an amazing part of the world. So coming out in the late 90s, as many of you may recall, everyone was, or not everyone, but a number of people were starting businesses. This is literally the start of the internet boom. And I wanted to figure out what could I do to, what kind of a business could I start? And having worked on Wall Street, spent a lot of time going through SEC data. And for those of us on today's call or listening in, there's a literally gold mine of information available. It's unstructured and hard to get at. And so we, took some time to figure out, okay, what's a data set that what's a data set that we could mine and be able to be able to monetize. And somehow we stumbled into this exec comp corporate governance area. And this is in, I launched Equilar in 2000. So this is late 2001, literally months before Enron, Arthur Andersen, all that came about. And we all know what happened after that. And we just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And so you'll see the Equilar name, especially this time of the year with all the different case studies that are out there. We'll have a couple more coming out later this month. And we're excited that we've got been successful building out a niche in this particular area, but even more excited with some latest product offerings around relationship intelligence, relationship mapping. In essence, we built you can think of this as a LinkedIn of the C-suite and the board. We like to call it the leadership graph. And and very excited how customers are using that data set.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, so I was chair of the board of Geo for 18 years, and when I got off, I was exhausted. But you're going on to year 24 now, so I guess it's year 25. That must be. Let me just ask you, because I'm sure everyone else is thinking, how do you just stay, inspired? And I mean, are there days where are you just need to take some time off and kind of reflect, or how do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. There are days where you scratch your head, and we all have our ups and downs, right? What keeps me motivated and even more excited now than even when I first started, is learning and meeting great people each day. And we're in a unique position. So thinking about our new offering, in the last year, customers we've signed up, it's Morgan Stanley, it's NASDAQ, it's Warburg Pincus, it's, some great, some of the smartest and amazing people in the country. And, so what the data set that we've collected, in addition to the comp and the governance around, people, executive intelligence, the way to think of it is, if you think about LinkedIn, what are their two primary use cases? One is recruiting, the talent piece, and the other one is sales navigator. We're essentially doing the same thing, but for the C-suite and the boardroom. And so on the recruiting side, Carine, as you know, we've been very active around board diversity. And myself, as a Korean American immigrant, it's not work. To me, it's like I feel very fortunate and blessed. I'm in a position to play a role in all this. And so we're working with over 50 different diversity groups, and in particular, there's a Asian American group, the Asian American Foundation, who I've been working closely with on some initiatives there. But it's ethnic diversity, it's gender diversity, it's sexual orientation. So when boards say they can't find candidates, I just feel like, give me 10 seconds and I will fill your bucket, literally. And so that's, there's a very strong mission component to it, of where we're very uniquely positioned to help on that. And so, we're working with the in-house talent teams at Summit Partners, at Blackstone, at TPG. And so when they're looking to source talent, as you know, we just hosted our board leadership forum at NASDAQ a couple of weeks ago. We'll be hosting our summit, which you'll be, thank you for speaking at that next month. So we're in a unique position given what we've built out. So that's what keeps me motivated, what keeps me excited. And, frankly, we're at the top of the first inning. And when I see how our customers are using our new data set, I'm excited about the other applications and other ways we can further expand on that.
So let's dive in a little bit. It's called Exec Atlas. And I was trying to describe it at dinner the other night to somebody, and I probably didn't do it justice, but just explain a little bit, because I remember talking to you about it early days when you were thinking about doing it. And just so people understand, you're sitting on all the data in the United States of publicly traded companies, of who's on their boards, who's in management. You have all that information through your compensation benchmarking data set. So maybe explain a little bit what happened to get you to Exec Atlas.
Yeah, that's a great question, Carine. So how this all started is we've been collecting comp data for 24 years. And so the way to think about this is, okay, you're looking at Apple, here's Tim Cook. We collected Tim Cook's CEO pay package, and that's stored in our data set. Next company we pull up happens to be Nike. We're collecting the director comp. And who's on their board? It's Tim Cook. And so you collect not only Tim's CEO pay, but what he's making as a lead director at Nike. And then, but what we've done, which sounds very basic, but at the time, nobody was doing this, is that when we collected the two Tim Cooks, we made sure it was one Tim Cook. So it's the same Tim Cook as opposed to Tim Cook Apple, Tim Cook Nike. And by doing this for the last 24 years, we've essentially built profiles of execs and board members of the various companies that they've been affiliated with. And then we've also been able to infer their network of relationships. So Tim Cook, going back to Tim being a director of Nike, he would know John Donahoe, the CEO of Nike, right? That's a very safe assumption to make. Being the CEO of Apple, he would know Al Gore, who was on the board of Apple for a number of years, right? So now you can start to figure out, okay, well, who are people that you can start to infer who Tim knows by being, an executive here, board member there. He's a trustee at Duke. So you mentioned about the public company side. We started off looking at public company executives because that's where we're collecting the comp. But over the last several years, we've been tracking private company boards, private equity boards, venture capital portfolio companies and their boards, major nonprofits like a Duke University. So you look at the Duke trustees of Duke. Well, who else is a trustee there? Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors. So you can start to now build out this graph of relationships. And so what we're solving, Carine, you've been in leadership roles at, as long as I've known you, and I'm sure that a day doesn't go by where somebody comes to you or you go to somebody like, do we know anybody senior at this company, right? And that's a very horizontal challenge that so many businesses are struggling with. And if, let's say, you happen to know Tim Cook, well, we've been trying to get to so-and-so, and look, Tim can help open the door. And so in today's world where, cold calling, frankly, there's still a lot of resources going into this, but it just doesn't work. Cold emails, think about our inbox, how many emails we get a day that we just sit there. How much time do we just spend delete, right? But if there's an email like, from Carine, somebody you knew from the past who said, hey, I'd like you to meet this person, you take that seriously. And that's really what our data set's all about, is to help people to navigate. We all have access to various networks, some stronger than others, but really, how do you go after, how do you connect with individuals intelligently and really, take advantage of people that are literally within your ecosystem?
Right. And then you can layer on top of that the comp data. So as I understand it, there's also, for your clients, the ability for them to say, look, when is, Tim Cook's probably the wrong example, but when is Tim vesting? When is,
yes.
So if you're in charge of an endowment at a university, or you're doing fundraising for your,
yes,
whatever, you could say, hey, now's a good time to talk to Tim because he's going to have all this money. So,
yeah, no, they're absolutely right. And we were actually using the Tim Cook example a number of years ago. So you may recall, right? He got that pretty sizable grant when he became CEO, and that vested, I forgot, it was 2023. I forgot what the exact year, right? Basically the 10-year anniversary of his tenure as CEO of Apple. And that was literally, that award was worth billions at that point. And he created a tremendous amount of value, right, as the CEO of Apple and building out the ecosystem. But you're absolutely right. So if you look at a Form 4 filing, what you're able to do, most people think of Form 4s after they sell, right? So after the change in equity when they exercise or sell their shares. But the even more valuable piece, as you pointed out, is taking those vesting schedules and mapping out when they vest, which we've done, so that you're a year before, or at least 6 months or whatever, to whether it's get a building named after that person or any kind of financial planning. There are multiple ways that information can be used.
Yeah. Interesting. So let's talk just a little bit. You've got the summit coming up. I'm looking forward. I'm going to be on the fireside chat. I don't know if there's such a thing in Boston in June, but James Hamza of Bank of America Merrill Lynch will be hosting that. And we had our call the other day, and so it was interesting to talk to people who are on comp committees. I think we're all comp committee chairs except for one. And talking about what's happening this year and kind of what are the themes. And before I say anything, let me just ask you, what are you guys at Equilar kind of seeing as a theme? Are there any things that you would want to share with people that are new?
Yeah, no, it's been candidly a pretty benign season as proxy seasons go. As recall, last year, a lot of attention around the pay versus performance disclosure rules. Number of companies struggling with, well, what does this mean? You know, Monte Carlo, a lot of, you know, new things, you know, new muscles that were being developed. The good news this year is that many companies were pretty comfortable having gone through that exercise. And, you know, while there may be folks who feel, you know, it's interesting. I was at a dinner the other night, and, you know, people are up in arms about Elon Musk and, you know, his pay package and, you know, what's gone on in the Delaware courts. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's never a right answer when it comes to pay. There's so many opinions, and, you know, for people, you know, to start throwing rocks at things without really understanding what's going on, that's just kind of the, you know, kind of the temperature of America right now. But that being said, it's been frankly a pretty, you know, there hasn't been anything that's really stood out that's like, oh my God, this has been a game changer. I think, like I said, most companies are doing the right thing. You know, there's been inflation, and, you know, that's just the way things are. You know, you go out to a restaurant here and you look at the prices and you're like, oh my God, where's that go? What happened there? And, not to say that's an excuse for any increases around CEO pay, but it's just it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the whole Elon Musk thing, you know, as a comp committee chair, one of the things that really drove home was the independence, the requirement to really be independent. And because I don't know how much people know about the whole Elon Musk thing, but I believe his brother's on the compensation committee, and there are people who have a vested interest in making sure Elon does well, which, you know, you could say, well, are they independent then? And I think that's a big, I didn't know going into being a comp committee chair how much you kind of struggle internally with things. You're struggling with the fact that you don't want to be the reason the CEO walks out the door. You're struggling with the fact that you've got shareholders that you're representing and you want to put a fair pay package together. You're struggling with the fact that, you know, everybody likes to be liked, so no one wants to be the jerk in the room. And you're struggling with really understanding the business you know, really well, so that you can design something that says, look, this person should be incented to do the right things. And I can tell you this year, as we went through our pay package back and forth, there were a lot of discussions, and a lot more than I thought. I kind of thought you put a thing together, you put it out there, everyone goes, okay, you know, looks good. And then you're good to go. And I will tell you that the funny part is we finally get through everything, and it really did take a lot of time. And I send it over to the lawyers, and I'm like, look, you know, we just need to memorialize this. These are the goals for 24, and, you know, want to make sure we have it all in the right place. And the lawyers came back and said, oh yeah, one of these goals that you put together, yeah, you can't have that goal. I was just like, oh my gosh, now we have to go back. And I wrote him, I'm like, well, just rewrite it and tell me what it needs to look like. But, you know, keeping the essence of the goal there. And so it's a complicated matter, but I think people are more sensitive now about, you know, like I said, the independence part. And then I would say too, Glass Lewis and ISS is always in the back of your mind. You know, that's the other thing. So those were some of the things we're discussing in preparation of our panel discussion.
Yeah, no, I mean, Carine, you nailed it. The comp committee chair is I think the hardest job on the board. Like if you're chairing audit, you have an auditor, and there are pretty clear rules on what you can and cannot do. It's pretty clear between a black and white, or there are options of what you can, how you can disclose things and calculate things and whatnot. Comp, it's fair game, and there's real. And what you clearly pointed out is that balance between the investors and the individual, you know, the CEO themselves, right? And it starts with the peer group, like, right? Who's the right set of peers to be picking? Because that will define what is high or low, right? And so that whole exercise, the metrics, aligning that with the business strategy, and because you don't want to be the chair in the comp committee where you get too aggressive on a pay package to be shareholder friendly, which, you know, forces the CEO, or not want to say force, but the CEO, he or she decides, you know, something, you know, I could be, if you don't appreciate me, you know, there are others that are out there. And then the minute you have to bring somebody from the outside, right? That just trickles down for because the reality is these pay packages, it's publicly disclosed. Well, who looks at this stuff closely? It's the people at their own company, and so they're looking at this, and now you got the pay ratio. I mean, it is a very, very challenging exercise. So I feel for you.
Yeah. The other thing I find interesting is that it's the only time in my life, other than when I ran my own company, that you have to think about what you pay yourself. So I'm responsible for the board pay as well. And it's interesting. I kind of brought it up at the last board meeting, and everyone's like, yeah, we're good. And I thought, have I done enough research? Have I, it's just hard. And then you're thinking, well, I'm talking about myself, not just, others, which as a former comp professional, I was always thinking about someone else's pay package, not my own. So it's another weird thing. So anyways, I'm looking forward to being at the Equilar Summit because I really want to hear what other people are going through and what their experiences are and how they've solved some of the problems too. Because the other thing you have is a lot of companies out there now with a very depressed stock price.
Yeah.
And I think that's impacting comp committees as well, is what are you doing? But when you first gave the pay package out, the stock was at $20. Now the stock's at $2. You've got some issues. You might be delisted from NASDAQ. What are you going to do about this when a big chunk of a pay package is in equity, not always in cash?
Yeah. And then, if you're trying to, from a dollar value perspective, match, prior year's awards, you get a smaller denominator, and all of a sudden, now you have to go back and get more shares. There's a very tricky balance in all this.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to you as running Equilar, maybe because we, at Compass, we help companies grow. And a lot of times that could mean selling the company. It could mean buying other companies. There's always that inflection point in a company where you have to kind of go, look, do I invest more? Do I just get out? Like, what do I do? Talk to us a little bit about if you've had those internal struggles, whatever you're willing to share publicly, how do you kind of get through those decisions and whether or not to risk or not to risk some of those questions?
Yeah. No, Carine, those, definitely things that I've had to, think about over the years. In the exec comp corporate governance area, we had a great run, grew very well for a while, and honestly, it plateaued a bit, and continue to chug along here. And so exactly, so where do we find growth opportunities? And that's frankly a big reason why I've launched Exec Atlas, and it's it's taken a while to get us to what I call product market fit, but very encouraged at where we are today in terms of some great set of logos that we've signed up in the last 12 to 18 months or so. So we're now at an interesting crossroads, and so very excited. So how do we continue growing here? I'm absolutely looking to hire more sales reps. We've got. We are doubling down on ways we can, get the Equilar name out there. Because one of the biggest challenges that we're running into with the new product is that when we go to a company and I know about Equilar, their comp data, it's not, we don't need it. So that's a knee-jerk reaction that we've had, literally with a top, AmLaw 50 law firm a couple of weeks ago. And I had to explain to them, no, we have a different product that we want to talk to you about. So it's good that, they recognize the Equilar name, but it is associated with our, core business around exec comp corporate governance. We've looked at acquisitions over the years. Are there companies that we should potentially acquire? The reality here, because there's so much private equity capital that's out there, anything that's decent, there's just so many bidders going after these assets. So that's been not easy for us. And then the question is, okay, well, why haven't we gone out and raised private equity or tried to raise capital? The hindsight that maybe we should have at some point along the way, but honestly, I feel we weren't quite ready for it as an organization for a whole host of reasons. Because I feel now given that we've got a new line is showing a lot of promise that could use capital to help accelerate that growth. I feel pretty confident about that. So that's probably that. It's not a pressing we're out there actively raising capital today or trying to raise capital, but definitely as I've got to personally think about my own succession planning, having done this for 24 years. And so not sure what that's, I don't have a very clear plan of what that entails, but clearly those are things that I am taking into consideration as I think about sort of, okay, how do we help Equilar grow? How do we, are there adjacent assets we should be thinking about? Or potential partnerships, and going from there. But really where we're focusing right now are around partnerships. And so company just up the road, we're pretty excited about some of the things we're doing around Snowflake and, data warehouses in the cloud. Think of them as razors and we're blades. And so the solution that we built out a native app for them. And we've got some great advocates in the Snowflake New York office that are very excited about how we're helping them with their customers. So stay tuned on some initiatives we have in that area.
Wow, sounds interesting. Yeah, it's I think it's always when you're running a company, it's easy just to kind of keep going. And I like you, I would sometimes have a meeting with someone and they would just say something that would just click something in my mind. And I think, oh, we should really look at that. And, then I would get excited again and kind of think, okay, we've got a new initiative. And my last company, we wanted to build something out using AI. We were maybe a little bit too new to what AI could do at the time. And I always found it so quickly I could find 10 people who would tell me why it was a bad idea. And so I could only find one or two kind of evangelists internally who would be like, oh yeah, let's do it. But then you have to make the financial decision, are you going to put some money towards this? So I'm sure looking back now, Exec Atlas made all the sense in the world. But at the time, did you feel that you were taking a major risk financially with the company to do this, or?
Oh yeah, without doubt. I mean, we've put a lot of capital into this. A lot of the profits have been plowed back in. I mean, if you look at our development resources, it's significantly skewed towards around Exec Atlas. So yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't quite call it a bet, but yeah, it's definitely in an area that we certainly were very intentional about, and did require at least in the 7 figures, if not 8 figures cumulatively that we've invested. Probably at this point into the 8 figures that we've put in to build this out. But it's a classic any capital allocation decision. Okay, do we feel that this can generate above market returns? And because we've collected this data over the last 24 years, we've built a pretty unique data set that I think would be is a differentiator. And there was a company a couple of years ago, I don't know if you ever came across them, but it's a company called Relationship Science. They went by Relsa. I mean, they raised over 120 million. I mean, so there've been big attempts at trying to solve this. And that being said, I feel we've like I said, if you go back and add up every dollar, it's definitely into the 8 figures. Definitely not 100, not 9, but it's definitely not sort of like, hey, put 2 guys on this and come back in a month and say, hey, does this thing work? But like I said, it's what I'm excited about is it helps on the board talent, executive talent side, and just great partners we've worked with over the years. And then also helping on the because I like myself personally, like I don't think I would have gotten to where we are as a company today without good friends and trusted partners along the way who've helped open doors, like including yourself, right? You've helped many times over the years with introductions, and that it's, to me, that's how business is successful businesses are formed, are finding good allies like you, and who can help, who have credibility when they reach out to somebody and say, hey, I really think you should talk to Dave. Who is this? Who are these guys? Why should we talk to them? Right. But be able to get the and that's really what I'm excited about, is that we're helping so many other businesses along those lines.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I was just talking to my husband about it last night, about how, so I had said to someone, you should go out to lunch with so-and-so, or there was, an introduction. I kind of thought you two, would work together. And the person said, well, why should I go? What's in it for me? And I thought, ooh, now I will tell you, it was a significantly younger person. And I thought, wow, that's just an attitude that just drives me crazy. It's one of those things. I always tell everybody, hey, I'll go out to lunch with anybody, and there's always a pearl of wisdom you can pick up from somebody. So if not right away, not today, maybe in a year or 10 years or whatever. So
you're absolutely right. I mean, there's one of the things that, you and I are fortunate to be here in Silicon Valley, right? Yeah. And, during COVID, things were, obviously shut down for a bit. But I encourage, people within our company, each month, try to find at least one event to go to, right? There's something going on, whether it's Stanford or, some other organization. And a lot of these are free, right? Mm-hmm. And just, if you can get out once a month, going to one of these events, mm-hmm. You'll learn, and you just never know who you're going to meet. And that just, builds out your network. And if you think about that, you do that 12 of these over a year, look at how much you've grown just, and like here, there are people, as you know, Carine, people in other parts of the country that would chop off their left arm to be out here, right? And to be able to go to an AI event up in San Francisco or something like that. But, I can't say enough. If people had that mindset and been intentional about it, I think it'd be amazing how much people would grow through that.
Yeah, I was going to go the other day to an event. The chair of one of our clients' companies was speaking, and I thought, I'll go and support him. It's at Stanford, it'd take me 5 minutes to get there. And I looked, and they wanted $150 for people to go. And I thought, yeah, no, I'm not going to be that supportive. It wasn't totally a topic that I was interested in, but I just thought that was funny. But I think there's a lot of opportunities. I just went and saw a screening of the movie Show Her the Money. And I don't know if you've heard of it. It's Sharon Gless of Cagney and Lacey. She's kind of behind it, and a number of other women. And it's about the story of 5 or 6 women entrepreneurs and investors as they kind of go through this journey of either starting a company or looking for companies to invest in. So you can see it from both sides. And it was a really interesting movie, and one of those things that kind of, stays with you and has an impact. So they're doing screenings all over the country. So if you're interested, just go to showherthemoney.com. And I have nothing to do with them, but I just thought it was an interesting thing to see. And people can sponsor a showing. So I went as a guest of a law firm who put it on for their women clients. And of course, there were men in the audience too, just kind of talk about that. I know it's not your core, but still this whole world of investors and finding those investors. It was interesting to hear how they think and what they're looking for and passing. And I'll tell you one quick thing. In the middle of the movie, one of the entrepreneurs is talking very quietly in her kitchen with her partner. And she says, "We're out of money." And just the way she said that, I mean, there isn't an entrepreneur out there who hasn't felt like, how are we going to make payroll? What are we doing?
Yeah.
We don't have enough money. And when she said that, it just stabbed me in the heart. And I just thought, oh God, I want to say, honey, we've all been there. I know what you're feeling. And the good news is it worked out for her. But anyways.
Yeah. No, I mean, I getting back to that. Sorry. I mean, the first 2 years I went through that, but I think, I don't know if you've ever read Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah.
That is every entrepreneur should read that book. I mean, many entrepreneurs say it's like the best book they've ever read just because they can relate to, what Ben went through.
Yeah. Well, being an entrepreneur and at Compass, we work a lot with people who are building companies. Sometimes I find I'm just mom, psychologist, coach, hand holder, shoulder to cry on. I mean, it is just, the business side is important, but the emotional, psychological side is really hard. And so I applaud you for what you've built. I drive by your building all the time, and every time I, point out to anybody in the car, I'm like, I know the guy who built that company. So well, let's wrap it up. I want to, thank you for this. And again, just the Equilar Summit is coming up. I think if you work in this space, meaning compensation, executive compensation, this is an event to go to. And it's still, I think you can still sign up. I think today is the last day for the hotel rooms. I heard that yesterday. But it is a place to go. It's an unusual collection of very senior people who really understand the space and are talking about what's going on. So I encourage people to sign up. It's June 4th through 7th. And so let me just finish, David, by asking you our question we always ask, which is if you had one pearl of wisdom to share with somebody who's just starting their company this week, and they're full of bravado and excitement and positivity, but what one pearl of wisdom would you share with them as an entrepreneur yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but yeah, build your network. You got to be out there in traffic. I can't say enough that knowing the right people, taking care of people along the way, and you just never know who you're going to meet, who can, like I said, open that door that just can, help you change everything. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and like I said, especially if you're an entrepreneur in a major metropolitan area where there are a lot of these entrepreneurial events going on and things like that, take advantage of them, because you'll be surprised at how effective they can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I do find occasionally, I got an email this morning from someone who I said, look, let's talk. And they said, yeah, give me a few more weeks, or really, heads down on the product. And I thought, you're the CEO. You can't afford to be heads down on the product. You got people for that. You got to be focusing on what's out there. And
yeah,
so that's always a lesson I try to impart. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Inside Track. Just so everyone knows, next month, June 11th, we're going to have Nimrod Froman on. Nimrod is an attorney and an entrepreneur based in Tel Aviv. He does a lot of work with Israeli companies, but he also does a lot of work here in the U.S. And he's going to give us an update on Israel, not the political situation or the war, obviously, but talking about what business is like. I was at a dinner last night with 3 venture capitalists from Israel, and there's a lot happening, and it's an interesting place to be in culture. So we're going to be doing that on June 11th. And then in July, I'm so excited. We're going to be having someone speak to us about cybersecurity and what's going on in that. And that is something everyone can learn from. So thanks again for joining us. We're going to put David's information up here as soon as we're done. We will be posting the webinar on YouTube. And thanks to everybody for joining us. And mostly thanks to David for being such a good sport and getting up this morning and joining us. So thanks, David.
Thanks, Carine.